And Fabienne, the floor is now yours for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. Very good afternoon to everybody. So my name is Fabienne Perruca, and I'm really delighted to be with you this afternoon to go a little bit more in depth of this project preparation process and how to try to formulate those financially viable project proposals. So I think maybe some of the cities may have seen, cohort 2 cities may have seen what I've presented last week. So bear with me, although it's a little bit different also today, as in the end we'll be talking a bit more on the project proposal formulation. And for those of you who have not been with us last week, then I'll be sharing my screen now. It's this one. Please let me know if you see it. Is it okay? Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, super. Okay, so let's get started. Right, so I think, you've already spoken a lot with the FMDV and UNCDF team, and I'm sure already also I was attending last month deep dive session. So clearly you've been speaking about prioritization. We hear a lot about this city credit worthiness, or sometimes you may have also questions, or you feel lack of capacity to meet some requirements. There could be also some governance issues, changes in the development priorities. So all of this is part of what you're going to address during the project preparation process. So Juliana said, I think it's quite right. I understand it can be a little bit frustrating at the beginning because it's, again, paper. You don't see the actual construction happening, but it's crucial. It's very important because if you don't prepare well, then you will invest probably badly. So project preparation is key. So let's get a little bit into the detail of what we call, you've heard a lot about this bankability concept, and of course, project preparation. So what is bankability? Bankability is really a project is bankable, whether it is from public or private sources, when its risk return profile meets the investor's criteria and can secure financing to implement the project. So Fakri was actually talking a lot about reducing the risk. So the risk is key to bankability. And the risk return profile is really the trade-off between the potential returns and the risks of losing money. So this is the key to bankability. And a financier will really consider a project bankable when it has high probability of success. We can never be 100% sure, but the higher the chances of success you have, the higher the chances of financing you'll get. And this project has to generate sufficient cash flow to cover the cost or recover the investment, or it has to be implemented by a credit-worthy public entity. And bankability conditions will really differ depending on the financier. You've heard from the IUCN and the SCF some of the criteria, especially on the return of investment, 14 to 15. That's quite demanding, that's quite high. Others, it may be a little bit lower, but they will ask for other criteria. So it really depends. But what is for sure that all of them, all of the financiers, whether public or private, national or international, they all need confidence that the project is financially viable and that regulatory, environmental, social, and economic factors are unlikely to prevent the project from being completed. So now, how can we work on that? What are the factors influencing bankability? Let's say there are three levels of factors: the project characteristics, the city level factors, and the national level factors. If we start from the higher level ones, the national level factors, we will look at the foreign currency risk. For example, if the government is going to borrow on international markets, or the intergovernmental architectures, because they are fiscal transfer from the national to local government. Are they regular? How much are these? So these kind of factors, what are the city's tax powers also? We have to look at that, but as a city, it's true you have less influence on that. So this is what somehow we call the enabling environment. And there are programs that also try to enhance this enabling environment. So if you don't have power on that today, influence on that, at least you need to be aware of what is the enabling environment. Then we have the city level factors. This is in your administration. So the administrative and technical capacity, it has a major impact on the preparation of the project, and investors will look into that. They will look at how you function, how you work, basically. And in particular, they will look at the financial fundamentals. So that is, what are the financial management capacity, your accounting systems, how transparent is the municipality, also how far have you got into capital investment planning and budgeting. Also procurement, what kind of procurement system have you got in place? So this is very important to keep working on that. It's not project specific, but very important. And also political support. Clearly, most likely the project timelines will extend, beyond a single political term. So maybe your mayor today who's willing to do the project may not be in charge in 3-4 years when the project will actually be inaugurated. So you have to keep that in mind and beyond a single administration. So this is really important to work on this capacity, partnership, and policy. And then we have the project characteristics. So this is all about the project costs. So of course this is shaping the risk return profile. What are the revenue potential? What are the benefits? So you've heard a lot from Mr. Anshuman about this long-term impact. What type of benefits is going to bring to the residents? And the risks. Of course, we have to appraise the financial, political, technical, social, environmental risk. And this is project preparation. So this is what project preparation is about. So now moving on. So basically, your project preparation process is going to help you respond to what Mr. Fakri has presented. These two key elements of bankability: impact, what is the impact of my project, and how am I going to finance it? What are the mechanisms, the model for financing it? On one hand, you have many needs. You want to extend your water supply program. You want to repair the roof of, I don't know, the market. I know there are a long list of needs, and you have already prioritized. We know that there is an investment gap. Clear that's not we know that. We know also that on the other hand, there are financing options. I think during the introductory masterclass, you've been presented all these options, and also UNCDF they have presented all these guarantee loans, grants, and so on. So there is some money out there, but to get this money, you have to develop this pipeline of bankable project. And to prove that it is bankable, this is via the project preparation. So basically what it is all about is defining the project concept, study it, and refine it to the point that it can raise financing from public and private sources and become bankable. It is also a very good way, because now you are at a stage where you're going to aggregate cooperation efforts. You're going to get commitments from stakeholders. So as you're going to prepare for the project, you're going to consult a lot of stakeholders, and this is key to make sure that your project has very solid foundation. Of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. This is a little bit theoretical, but it's important to understand why it is so important. Now, moving on to the project stages. What is here in greenish is the project preparation phases. So you already have some types of plans, or climate plan, master plan, or investment plan, any type of plan. You've started some data collection and so on. I think from cohort 2 for cohort 2 cities, you have already a good concept. You've done your scoping, and the objective now is to move on to pre-feasibility or sometimes even feasibility study to get into the details of the project. And then also you can move on to implementation. So instruction, operation, and monitoring. But before that, we have to make sure that you have a good basis with the feasibility, the pre-feasibility or feasibility. And then that comprises a number of elements. I'll go through that in detail. Another point is that as you are going to go through this project preparation process, in parallel, you have to keep in mind this enabling environment development. I'll get back to that. Keep working on all the capacity development, knowledge, peer learning. What you are doing today is typically what you have to keep doing, partnerships and stakeholder consultations. You cannot do the project alone. So you have to look at who are the other stakeholders around you. Getting a little bit more into the details of those project preparation phase. At early mid-stage of project preparation, let's say that in terms of project definition, for you, it's pretty clear. You have already prioritized it. You know who are your partners. You've done some site visits. You have some initial risk assessment. So now we are moving to the project assessment, to the pre-feasibility. The pre-feasibility is going to help you justify why the project interventions are chosen instead of other options. You cannot be sure of your technical options like now if you have not investigated in a few options. And this is also going to help you have a clear overview of the benefits, of the impacts. This is very important. And to do that, you may look into all these administrative arrangements, technical and engineering option, costing also, looking a little bit more into details of how much it's going to cost in terms of capital expenditures, doing the assessment for environmental and social issues, looking at the initial financial model and the risk assessment. So once you have that, that will give you confidence that the project can be assessed into more detail because it's a credible business case and it has a very good potential for implementation. It helps build your case and your pitch then to go to the investors. And when you have this, okay, between pre-feasibility and feasibility, there is a thin line. So depending on the complexity of your project, pre-feasibility and feasibility can be merged together. If it's a very complex project, you need to phase it into two phases. So basically the feasibility is you go into more detail. This is when you're going to have the detailed technical design, modeling, financial issue analysis, more detailed environmental and social impact assessment if needed. I mean, it will depend on what you have seen before. I mean, that will really depend on your project, but it's like more specialized studies. And then you move on to the project transaction. So you may need to design some legal entities, to prepare your procurement plan, to negotiate the financial and legal terms. So these are all the steps to secure the financing and to procure for your construction. So that will come a little bit later, but you can keep that in mind already. This is just an example. I'm not going to go through all the details. We can talk about that later, especially during the exercise phase of what can, for example, a pre-feasibility study on solid waste, a project on solid waste management can comprise. You may already have some elements. So again, this is not cast in stone. But if you want to develop solid waste management project with from collection up to the treatment to the landfill or your closure of existing landfill, of course you need some surveys in data, and especially the waste characterization survey. You're not going to design a system, a scheme, without knowing what kind of waste you have in terms of quantity and composition. You need an assessment of your sector. I mean, how is it working today? A climate assessment is now, I would say, a sine qua non condition for international investors. Environmental and social due diligence is, depending on the financier, it can be more or less important. But it is super important for solid waste management. You cannot avoid that. The bankability is not just about the bank. It's not just about the money. So if you find something that is going to destroy the environment, it's unlikely you're going to get finance. Technical options, this is very obvious. I mean, if you are at pre-feasibility stage, you do preliminary design. If you're at feasibility, you go to the detailed design. So these are the design of the recycling facilities, of the landfills, and so on. Capacity and governance, it's very important. We tend to forget about that, but there is no need to invest if then the city and its partner are struggling to manage and operate and maintain the infrastructure. Financial and economic analysis is one of the key aspects of the project preparation phase. And of course, all the preparation to link it to finance and to consult with stakeholders. You may also think, I mean, now what I've presented, it's a lot of elements. So you may also ask, okay, how long and how much will that cost? So from the time you start now at concept design up to financial closure, it may take 1 year. Financial closure, sorry, it means like the end of the project preparation before you start implementing. May take 1 year to 2 years and a half, approximately. So, and that will really depend on the technical depth of your study, the quality of discussion with stakeholders. If there are a lot of disagreement, if there is no consensus, it may take more time, but it's better to know it now rather than later. It will also depend on the complexity of financing mechanisms, the maturity of the enabling environment, and your own capacities. And in terms of costs, a project preparation can go to a simple pre-feasibility study, a very initial study, that may be like $100,000, $150,000 up to $1 million. And this is paying for experts, for specialists that are going to work with you, with the city, to go into what I've just explained. You see all those different issues that have to be appraised to make sure to have a complete picture of what the project is going to be about. So now, I mean, if we zoom out a little bit, I'll just go to the enabling environment, because this is everything that is not project specific, capacity, institutional, and policy development. And here the national government is very important. So keep a dialogue mechanism, be very well aware of what is the enabling environment for you, and that can address all the design of the regulatory approaches. How are the green investments financed in your country? What are the private sector incentives? So all these type of things. It can also help to support institutional reforms, especially the vertical coordination between national government and the local government. It can also address relevant institutions for your own project, how to reform them, how to build capacity of for example, your municipal solid waste management company, or your water supply company. So how are you going to make sure that they have enough capacity and management capacity to deal with the project? And consensus building, which is like all the stakeholder development process. Now, you are not alone to prepare all of that, and there are a number of project preparation facilities in Asia. I mean, you've just got the presentation earlier of two of them. A project preparation facility is an organization or an institution that is going to support cities in developing bankable and investment-ready projects. Usually they help you, they help you go through all those stages and help you connect with finance. So there is a very good directory that has been put up by the Cities Climate Finance Leadership Alliance, a platform that gathers many facilities actually, and you can take a look into that. I've tried to do also a little selection for you, or an overview. What is really important first is to understand what are your eligibility criteria. So you just got, for example, the one from the Subnational Climate Fund. So start if you're from an eligible country. Typically, a city from Thailand cannot apply from the SCA to the SCN because they have only Cambodia, Indonesia, and Fiji, for example, in the region. Can the city apply, or does it have to go through the national government? What are the eligible sectors? What stages are covered in eligible activities? If the facility is tied to a fund or a bank, sometimes, I mean, I'm thinking of ADB, for example, if they put $500,000 for you as a grant for technical assistance to prepare for a project, most likely this is to prepare for ADB operation alone. So, and sometimes you have also a timeline for application. You have call for proposal. So at this stage, look at what is available out there, see where you are in the picture, and then, for example, for UNCDF, you have this application, I mean, you have these steps, these phases, where depending on the level of readiness, then you can be awarded the technical assistance. All of the facilities have, they provide local capacity development, so they help you. And some are focused on the early stages, some others are more focused on the late stages of project preparation. Some are more focused on private sector, some are also more diverse. So there is a wide variety. My advice would be that you have to talk to them a little bit first before preparing a project proposal and filling out the form and sending it to the platform. It's good to get in contact with those facilities and to better understand what they exactly are looking at before submitting, so that it helps you refine and prepare well your proposal. Usually technical assistance and grants are the most common type, and they are usually multi-sectoral. So the clusters that are addressed by the SGAC cities are most of the time covered, but just double check within in their website. You know that for the multilateral development banks, such as the World Bank or ADB, the project should have a critical size. So if you have if your project is going to cost you, I don't know, $4 million, for example, it's unlikely that you're going to go through this type of financing option, and then you have to look at other financing options. So this is for that. Then this is a table. You will have you will get the material. So I'm not going to go through it in detail, and you have all the links for the eligibility criteria and how to apply. At your stage, that is moving on from concept to pre-feasibility or feasibility, I think, for example, CDIA would be a good fund. I think you've spoken with Kathleen, so she may be able to advise further. The GAP fund also is quite active at the early stage for the early stage projects. Some facilities are, for example, Mobilize Your City is more is addressing mostly project in terms of mobility. So, for example, this one is more sectoral. ECLAI also is actually their call for proposal is opening tomorrow, and they're having a webinar where they're going to explain how their program is working and how you can apply. So the application process is open for the next 6 months. So, and they can also help in terms of planning and feasibility studies. The SCF that has just been presented today also has a dedicated technical assistance. UNCDF, I'm not going to present it again because Fakri was here also to explain how they work with the dual key mechanism, but it's of course an excellent facility to consider for your project. And I would like also to mention to recommend you to go to look at the national development banks or programs. I'm thinking, for example, of PTSMI in Indonesia or the PPP Center in the Philippines, for example, but because they have also funds to prepare for projects, and that can be also useful for cities to look into that. As most likely, also your project's going to be financed with national funds or blended, can be private, national, and local. Look into what is available at the national level. Now, I'm going to move a little bit more quickly to look at how to develop your project proposal. I think you have been circulated a template. To apply to these facilities, you don't have to write a lot, but what you have to write is you have to think about that very well, because it's going to help you demonstrate your commitment and credibility. It's okay if you don't have all the data. It's okay if you don't have all the figures. You can use assumptions and proxies, and please be very transparent and ready to share the information you have. At this stage, if you don't have the whole figures, for example, if you don't know all the greenhouse gas emissions, provide qualitative assessments, for example, on impacts and benefits. And for international donors, climate change now is very, very, very important. So estimate the mitigation and adaptation benefits. estimate also the direct and indirect beneficiaries, start to initiate some discussion with stakeholders, investors for the financial parts. If don't be shy also. If you have pilot project, if you've started like something, mention it, and because it's also good for you to show that the city has already started, and seek support for that. So I will now go through this city application form and template, but just on the key parts, what I think is the most important for you to look into. So I'm not going to go line by line. On the applicant details and alignment, of course, I mean, put someone that knows about the project, not someone can be someone very important in your city, but someone knowledgeable about the project is important. Something we want to know is the alignment of your project with strategic urban and climate framework, because it shows that you have political support. If your project is within is aligned with some sort of plans, it's extremely important. So this makes sure that you think well of how you're gonna justify the alignment of your project with other planning framework. In the project description, we were discussing, for example, last week on what kind of support are you seeking. That means specify the outputs you expect from the TA. I mean, what exactly you want the facility to help you with. So if it's like a capacity building, that can be, for example, I would like to develop a capacity development program and institutional strengthening roadmap on this issue. Or if it is about development of a business case, that means I would like the facility to help me to develop a business and commercial study on the EV vehicle potential in my city and surrounding municipalities. So this is the type of activities that the facility can help you with. Or it can be also, I would like the facility to help me with the development of a pre-feasibility study and outline design of engineering solutions to facilitate the preparation of an investment loan, including outline financial economic analysis and safeguard due diligence. So these are just examples. You don't have to copy paste. This is just for you to get an idea of what it can look like in terms of scope. Something very important is when they ask you to provide a short description. Usually it's less than 1 page of a short description of the objective and the scope of the project. So you don't have to explain so much about the challenges. We know usually what the issues are, so a short paragraph will do, but try to explain what you want to achieve. For example, I want to implement an e-mobility scheme in the core part of the city, and be specific on the scope. Do you focus just on one part of the city, the whole municipality, also surrounding municipalities, because that helps give an idea of the scale of your project. And think of the outcomes, the impact. So this is where we come here at the transformative impacts and benefits. This is what people, they want to invest to see changes. So think of these co-benefits or expected environmental and social economic impacts. I have a specific slide after that can that goes a bit more into detail, but it can be, you know, positive impact on air quality and pollution reduction, or it can be on education, on energy access, in terms of social impact, job creation. So there are a number of co-benefits that you have to think through, because this is really explaining the rationale why you want to invest, people to invest in your project. So really, this co-benefits is very, very important, because it helps you build the storyline of your project, and it helps you make a case to take action. So, for example, I've seen that there are projects on solid waste management. So your project, the objective is to increase waste collection, processing, recycling, and disposal capacity. So this is the objective of your project, of your fund. What are the type of co-benefits you can have? Creation of green jobs, reduction in net emissions, increase of attractiveness of the urban area and tourism revenue, also a reduction of health risks, for example, associated with pollution. So these are examples that you have to think about. In the mobility, I've seen also some projects on mobility. For example, you want to implement an e-mobility scheme or encourage the shift from private cars to active transport. What kind of co-benefits can it bring? It can increase the physical activity and keep health risk lower, improve the road safety, or increase energy security by reducing exposure to high oil prices, or reduce air pollution and noise. So these are examples of, I mean, you don't have to write them all. Now, these are just a lot of examples just for you to understand what I mean by co-benefits. Moving on to the financial rationale, they may ask you what is the total cost. Maybe you don't know. Provide a rough estimate or a range, because in any case, the exact cost, we will know it later when we will have done all the assessment. But at this stage, you can already say if you're rather targeting public or private financing, rather national or international, and you justify, you explain shortly what is the status of the ongoing discussion or any pilot initiative you may have. So it's okay not to have everything detailed at this stage, at your stage. And if you have other elements, if you have available documentation, share that. So it shows that you have something already concrete in the city. So I'm a little bit beyond time, but that's my concluding slide. Basically, to attract funds, the city governments, they need three critical elements. The first is the strategic engagement and alignment. So as much as possible, some projects, maybe you need that a little bit less than others, but usually it's good to engage with national policymakers and to, especially in Asia, where it's not so decentralized, to keep a good dialogue with some line ministries, with the Ministry of Finance. To have your project also align with your city climate action goals, because that helps in terms of political support. And to know what are the criteria of financiers, speak with them, ask them as much as possible also, or the facility can help you do that also. But your proposal has at one point to be aligned with what they are looking for also. Then second important point is to work on the internal capacity to show you that you're credible and viable investment partner. So creditworthiness is critical, of course. So improve the city's financial fundamentals. There are programs also that exist to do that. If you can try to link the strategic, spatial investment and budget planning to support the investment in climate infrastructure projects, and keep learning. I mean, keep participating in any capacity development in opportunity. And then, of course, I mean, the key elements is the feasibility of the investment project. So the level of detail will really depend on the nature of the project. And again, both the financial sustainability, but also the impacts are very important. And we're gonna go through that, I think, during the exercise time. So with that, I conclude on this a bit long, sorry, but that presentation, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you. Over to you, Juliana.